In today's episode of my social media program, it is all about community announcements, things to watch for, and things, sometimes you just got to keep your mouth shut and just go with it. Let's talk about that next. When it comes to notifications, you have to be very careful on when you decide to let your community know that something is wrong or something that they need to be aware of is happening. An example of something like this for me is if my website goes down, I do a notification on the social media platforms where they're affected the most. So YouTube is connected to my website. So if my website goes down, I usually put out a note on YouTube on the community board saying that our website's down right now. I'm aware of it because people will continually update and say, by the way, your website's down. Do you notice? They'll email, they'll send messages through Facebook. So if you acknowledge that you know something like that in the social media platform, it'll save you a lot of trouble with a lot of communications that will come your way because people are aware that you know and that you're working through it. The other thing to do is that something like that happens, that's not the community's fault when it happens. So when you relay a message that something is down, something like that, don't do it in a negative way that puts guilt on other people or tries to make people feel sorry for you. It's a first world issue. A lot of us here in Canada and the US and other places, we're lucky to have the internet. So for the system to go down, especially in my particular case, it's a hobby, it's not life threatening. So therefore it does not have to be in a sense of like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening. It does happen and it is part of that. The one thing that you don't want to do with notifications is to start using your audience as the sounding board to be able to drive up the negativity. And negativity does sell and it does get shared, but you got to be very careful because that may be the overall impression that you leave on people and not necessarily the other impression that you really wanted to in the first place. Let's talk about that. With notifications, they see it from time to time where a host keeps asking the community to spend money and says, you're not supporting me enough. Can you please go on to my stuff and start making purchases? Or can you come on over here and start giving me more traffic because I need to boost this? Or you need to vote for me because I'm trying to do something for myself. A lot of it, the last word I just said, myself, is the key word there. You're trying to get people to do something to benefit yourself. And if you do it too often, people are going to say, are you in it for all of us or are you in it for yourself? You have to be very careful that you don't start doing that because people will respond and they will give you the traffic and they probably will spend some money. But eventually that goodwill runs out pretty damn quickly because somebody that will get that notification says, well, I bought a pattern before, now it's going to be on somebody else to also do that. But when you keep getting inundated with that, it's almost like being punched in the face over and over when the same hosts or the same moderators do that on a social media platform. You have to be very careful on what you want. Remember that social media and what we're doing here online is completely a choice. You should be so privileged that people want to spend time on what you create versus treating these people like they're your servants in many ways to be able to serve you. You are part of the community. You are the leader. You are not above anybody else. You may be leading people and maybe suggesting some things, but you are not the be all to end all. I'm sorry about your luck, but you're not. You are, because you need to make sure that anything that you're putting out in the social media is factual, especially when personal information is concerned with that. So you have to understand is that it's all about choice. And it is about the free choice of a person to be able to follow you and to understand where you're coming from, to take in your content, whether you're doing educational or entertainment or whatever you're doing online. And if your goal is to infuriate anger, which we do see quite frequently on many platforms where the host intentionally pushes buttons, you know what? At one point, you can say, you know what? I'm tired of my buttons being pushed. I'm done. I'm out of here. And it's always a free choice. But then I've seen creators do that and then they start crying that nobody loved them or people never gave them the respect level. Well, you know what? You have to earn the respect in order for people to respect you. So just pay attention to how people are communicating. And if you start seeing yourself dwindling, then maybe the balance point of getting people to do something for you versus what you're doing for them has been compromised and maybe you're just